in the old school switching lanes. G's in the hood trying.
What's good, everybody? What's good? It's your boy, Cardinal, Bud Crawford, or ES Red, if that's what you want to call me. And we are back for another one. Alright, y'all, we got them new topics. Is Terence Crawford a harder puncher than Errol Spence Jr.? I see a lot of people are reporting on this specific topic. Who is the harder puncher out of these two fighters? Personally, I find that to be a joke of a question. You know, that can only be a question being posed by fans of Crawford, people who expect or want for Terence Crawford to win this fight. I think those are the ones actually asking that question to the boxing public. I don't think anybody with or within their right mind who actually watched any portion of that Ugas fight would say that Terence Bud Crawford is the harder of these two punchers. And I know a lot of people base that off of his knockout ratio. Makes absolutely no sense. I mean, you can look, because we all have eyes. You can look at the damage of an Errol Spence Jr. opponent versus the damage of a Terence Crawford opponent and see a glaring difference. There's a difference even in knockout. You might knock your opponent out based off of the fact that you outworked him. He just might be way more tired than you are. He might be gassed out in a certain point of the fight. He's just not conditioned as well as you. And he might go down, take a knee, and take the L based off the fact that his conditioning is not as superb as yours is. It might not have anything to do with your power. And then you have those type of fighters who they might have landed so many punches on you. They might not be hard shots. They might not be bone-breaking shots. But he's landed so many shots that once again, it's gassing you, it's making you tired. You decide to take a knee, and that's the end of the fight. And then you have those guys like Errol Spence Jr. that are landing bone-breaking shots. You can see the damage. It's clear to your eye. You can clearly see the damage being done, and you can see the physical toll it's taking on the opponent. Terence Crawford's not one of those type of fighters. I've never watched or seen a Terence Crawford knockout where I was saying, well, they need to stop this or he's going to kill this guy. Never, ever have I saw that out of a Terence Crawford fight. The Ugas fight, you know, and here's another thing about that Ugas fight. Ugas is a big guy. He can take a punch. He's a bigger welterweight, bigger than Errol Spence. Does that mean that in that fight, Errol Spence was hitting him with speed combinations or combinations that he just couldn't see coming because he's quicker than him? You know, in that scenario, that might be the case because Ugas is not a speed fighter. But that looping punch was sure coming out pretty fast when he was fighting Pacquiao, even though, you know, it is what it is. But in that scenario, Errol Spence was the quicker out of those two fighters. And not only was he the quicker out of those two fighters, he was landing the combinations out of those two fighters. Not only was he landing the combinations out of those two fighters, he was landing the harder shots out of those two fighters. And that could be seen throughout the whole fight. Now, Terence Crawford might have one of those attributes, might have two of those attributes, but he doesn't have the power. I've never, ever said or even thought that Terence Crawford was a power puncher. I would, you know, it's just not something that crosses my mind when I think about Terence Crawford as a fighter. Speed fighter, yes. Combination fighter, yes. Can he overwhelm an opponent? Yes. Can sometimes speed and combos equal power because you're landing so many shots that your opponent can't stop? It can seem like it's power, but that doesn't mean that it is power that is doing it. Listen, Errol Spence has the power to knock you out cold one shot if he can land it in a specific position or at a specific time. Terence Crawford, at no point have I ever thought that he can throw one punch and knock out his opponent. And you know, I don't even think Errol Spence Jr. can do it on the level of a guy like Manny Pacquiao or Mike Tyson or no other power shot AHAT punchers. You know, Juan Manuel Marquez had to land an incredible shot, one-punch shot, and out of nowhere to knock Manny Pacquiao out. But it wasn't something that he was doing on the regular. You know, not even Errol Spence Jr. is one-punch cold knocking guys out on the regular. He's just using his power to break fighters down. Now, there's two totally different types of power. You know, there's breakdown power punching, and then there's knockout power punching. Manny Pacquiao, because of those angles he uses and the fact that he is so strong for a little guy, he has those big, ginormous calves, he can generate knockout power punch with one shot. Errol Spence Jr. normally does it off of accumulative punches. Manny Pacquiao can do it that way too, but that's more based off of speed, angles, and the fact that his calves are so big that he can generate that type of power. Errol Spence is just a breakdown fighter. He has the power to knock you out, but he doesn't use it in that way. He uses it to break down, try to get you either to quit or to get you to go down, or he's just going to F your face up and your body up so bad the referee is going to force a stoppage. Terence Crawford, he's more of a speed fighter, use combination, and he really never has displayed knockout power in his career. Now, does that mean he can't develop it? Anything can be developed if you work at it hard enough when you're in a sport, but I don't think it's something he should be developing, not at this point in his career. That's something that he would have had to have started doing 10 years ago when he was at 130 and 140, is developing knockout power, and by the time he got to 147, he should have already been knocking guys out. By the time Manny Pacquiao got to 147, he was already knocking guys out with one shot at 140, flooring people at 140. So there was never a point to where you wasn't saying that, hey, Manny Pacquiao can't be a knockout artist. You knew he could be a knockout artist. So I don't see why people would be saying that Bud is a knockout artist when it's something he's never done in his career. And he's almost 40 years old at this point. How can you be developing, which I'm not saying it can't be done, but usually you're not developing new attributes at 40 years old in the boxing. Now, he's not at 40 yet, but he's as close as you could be. So, you know, to me, no, Terence Crawford doesn't have more power or better power or knockout power at 147. Errol Spence does have and possesses knockout power at 147, but doesn't use it as a one-shot knockout artist. He can, but doesn't. He's a breakdown fighter. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holla at me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, but you're more than likely to get a response on the tube, so holla at me over there if you want a response. It's your boy, Cardinal, Bud Crawford, or E.S. Red, if that's what you want to call me, and we are mighty.
Riding in the old school, switching lanes. G's in the hood, trying to pitch the cane. I'm a young nigga trying to get the change. Niggas need money, long live the game.